Hey everybody, I'm going to do a fairly straightforward before and after video today. This is the 20-gallon tank I keep set up for my wife to enjoy. Call it my wife's tank. Figure that's an appropriate enough name for this tank. So it's got some bloodfin tetras in there, it's got some skirt tetras in there. Of course it's got that big angelfish, and on the bottom is a couple of Cory, one of which is one of my oldest fish. And so again, no big to do with this video. We're just going to get in there and get the tank cleaned up. I think if you can see that mass down on the bottom in the left corner, that is actually a Marimo moss ball, and that is one of the oldest plants I own. That's one of the original Marimo moss balls I bought from PetSmart when we first got into keeping fish. And it's just kind of falling apart and looking gross. It really should be rolled around and maintained and moved from time to time, and it doesn't. It just sits there in the corner, and then Mom collects on it, and then that affects the way it grows, and it really just does look like a big matted mass down in the corner there. So I might get rid of that. I might just pull it out, have a look at it, see how it looks, maybe just throw a chunk of it back in. The Marimo moss balls are actually a type of macroalgae. They're not actually moss, and in their native habitat they actually rise and fall throughout the day as the sun shines on them and they start to get oxygen beating up on them. They'll rise up, then they'll fall back down, and that constant movement of rising and falling keeps them nice and round, and you get those Marimo moss balls. If you just let them sit in the corner of the tank and you don't give them a whole lot of light, yeah, they tend not to look like moss balls anymore, and they tend to grow into blobs, and that's kind of what's happening here. So there you go. There's your look at before, and there's your after. So not a ton of changes, but I did thin the plants out a little bit. I did get rid of that Marimo moss ball down there in the bottom left corner. It was pretty funky. I threw it in a bucket. It's probably just going to grow out in my basement for a little while. We'll see if we can't get it to come back and look more like a moss ball or something. I don't know. I'm not getting any kind of hopes up for that surviving. So the moss ball is gone. I removed a lot of the Java fern you can see tucked under that rock there. No reason other than it was just starting to fill the tank in a lot. This is only a 20-gallon tank, and that angelfish is pretty big for the tank, and it doesn't have a ton of room to swim around. Now, angelfish don't need a ton of room to swim around, but they do need to be able to get around. They do need to be able to move around inside their tank, and the plants were just starting to get so crowded in there that I wanted to thin them out a little bit. You can see my two Corys down there. The big one is my emerald Cory that is swimmy. I've had her for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now. And then the other Cory there you can see along the glass is just a peppered Cory. Oh, I even got a third one in there. I knew I'd put 2 of the peppered Corys in there, but I hadn't seen 2 of them together in so long. I thought one of them had passed away or something, and I was down to just the emerald and the one peppered, but there are 2 peppered Corys in there, so that's good. I thinned out a little bit of the Java moss that you can see growing in there. All that little sort of green hairy looking stuff is Java moss. I thinned that out a little bit. Did a very, very mild gravel vac. I didn't scrunch it down in the gravel per se, but I did, get around in nooks and crannies and in the corners and sucked a little bit of mulm out that way. I wiped the glass down, and of course I replaced the filter while I was in there. And that's about it. Nice, simple, easy water change. As I said, not a big to-do on this video, just a simple before and after. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this one here is my wife's tank. Make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss anything I got coming up. Thanks again. I'll see you real soon in the next one.